As you voted on my Instagram story, now I'm gonna do compressors. This is gonna be quite difficult to explain and probably even harder to understand, but I'm gonna do my best to be as clear as possible. Point of compressor is to control the dynamic range of a sample. All you need to know is how and when to use them. Don't use them because you saw a video of someone saying you need a compressor. You can do more harm than good if you don't use them for a specific reason. I'm gonna explain some features of them and how I use them. First thing I want to talk about is the dynamic range. It means the loudest part of the sound, the peak, and the most quiet one. Let me show you on an open head. So this is the peak and this is the most quiet one. So this means at the beginning it's loudest and then it goes more quiet. On the other instance we have this synth sample. This one is more quiet on the beginning and it gets louder at the end. Ratio means how aggressive is the compressor. Higher the ratio, the more compressor. Attack where on the sample the compressor starts working. Faster at the beginning, slower at the end. So we have faster, it's gonna start here. If it's slower, it's gonna start somewhere here. Depends where you set it. The release means how long the compressor is working. Faster, it stops sooner. Slower, it stops faster. Auto, it automatically determines the release length. Threshold, at which volume the compressor starts working. Then we have makeup, means if you lower somewhere where you set the compressor, it's gonna make the rest louder. Peak, does it work on the loudest volume? So in this case like here. RMS, it's basically the average level of the sound, and this setting works on the average level. Expand, it doesn't lower the volume but increases it and makes it a bigger dynamic range. Dry wet, how much of the effect or original sample you want to use. Knee, I don't use. Look, it determines how fast the compressor starts working before the sample starts. I use it explicitly with sidechaining. Then you have EQ. With this you can be even more in detail where you're gonna use the compressor. I don't use it because I think it doesn't make such a big difference. Like I said, don't use something if you have no specific reason. Sidechain, you have to select the trigger on what sample you want the sidechain to work. This is basically just volume automation. With this you decide what is more important and has to be in the front. Let me show you on another plugin I have specifically for sidechaining. This is Kickstart from Nicky Romero. I currently use it on a bass. So you have different modes. The first one has fast attack and a release, so this means the sidechaining starts soon and ends soon. This is really useful for sidechaining from a kick. Since it is the most important element in techno, and we want it to be more in the front and more apparent. Here we can also use an audio input, and we will see the wavelength of a kick in this example because I selected the kick. So this is the kick in the yellow. So different modes have different results and also alter how the sample sounds. Okay, now let me show you some examples of how it is compressor on a sample and for sidechain. Because I want to leave the initial peak of a kick as it is, I will set a slower attack and faster release. This will make the kick more punchy. So about 4:1 ratio, lower the attack, faster release, then we play with the threshold. Okay, so now we see the gain is much higher, so we control with the output volume. So without and with. There isn't much difference because you have to have trained ears to actually hear it. Okay, another example. We have a lot of peaks on this sample and I don't want that because it's harder to mix. So here I'm gonna do the opposite and have a fast attack so it lowers the peak volume. So we can see the gain is at -6. So we can see the compressor lowered the peaks, so now it's at -8.5 ish. Okay, so without and with. This is another example of how I use compressor. Okay, now let's go to sidechaining. Sidechaining I used mostly on kicks, and let me show you how I'd use it on this bass. I use ratio on full, so I have more control of how aggressive the sidechain is. Fast attack, because I wanted to start at the beginning of the kick. Fast release, because I don't want it to last that long. And I use look ahead on 10. Then we need to select the input audio, in this case the kick. And we played with the threshold to get the result we want. So now we can see the kick punches in front of the bass, so it's more apparent. So with and without. I hope I explained this so I understand it better. This was quite a challenge for me because I didn't properly hear compression till about my second or third year of production. It's not that obvious for untrained ears. If you have any questions about this, DM me or leave a comment. I will do my best to answer. I hope you learned something useful and new. If you like what I do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you and see you in the next one.